So the live is going to be about men and women, but mostly about the consciousness of men. And Water Bear Medicine is a guest. He's going to be here soon, so I'm just starting the live now. Hopefully this will help many people find some clarity. So it's something I've been looking forward to. I've had many discussions with Water Bear Medicine, and he works with the masculine. And as you know, I'm a reader. I'm a hypnotherapist. I'm an Akashic reader, and he is a healer, healing facilitator, a wonderful sacred divine masculine on his journey. And as soon as he comes on, I'll let him on. Oh, here he is. Okay, great. And so the premise of this, before I bring you on, actually, let me bring you on. Perfect. So before I bring you on, before I let you loose, I want to first say, if you could let everyone know how to contact you if they wanted to do a session with you, a healing session, and so forth. How to contact you besides TikTok?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is through Instagram, but I also have my own website link, which is on my profile, on the TikTok profile.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. Please, when the live is done, we're going to upload it on YouTube and it'll be available to you. Please send it to every masculine you know, because we need to change the consciousness of the masculine. And so, what I'd like to do is talk about, if you don't mind, I kind of want to set the stage, if you don't mind. And so, the first thing I wanted to talk about is where men have come. Been in the last, say, 100 years. And I feel as if, and again, this is not something that I'm saying because I'm a woman. It's something that I'm going to say as a sentient being. The attack on the masculine root chakra has been so intense for so long that there's a lot of things we've normalized. And one of the ways to take a man's power is definitely through his root chakra. And if you own that root chakra, you own the entire man. This is through financial systems, through the corruptness, through this idea that you have to make money and be rich to be a man, as opposed to being a loving man who makes an honest living, who wants just to have a relationship that's honest and is balanced and has integrity and is nurturing. And one of the other ways besides money has been pornography. I said it. And this triggers men a lot because it's been normalized. And so I want to just make sure that we can talk about why there's been such this normalization on the masculine, on like bringing women down to just a level of stupidity. And I know this, and we're going to talk about this, Water Bear, is how female robots are being promoted, and how low-level men, are talking about what they want to do to these robots and what they're going to do, what is it capable of doing, and does it have an IQ? It's almost like men just want a pretty face and absolutely no IQ. Now before you take over, because you're going to take over. Sorry, I'm going to get my cat out of the room.
It's so cute. I keep hearing your cat crying in the background.
No, I know, Ian. So what I'm going to say is, besides that, shh, don't do that, not now. What's happening besides the robots and this concept of low IQ was there was a time where women were told, this went on for hundreds of years, where you had to hide your intelligence as a feminine. Now, on the flip end, I'm going to make sure to say fairly, because I know you're going to take this and run with it, is that women have always also been very corrupted in abusing other women in being as toxic as the patriarchy, they also corrupted the matriarchy with corrupt agendas for power to win, infanticide, and poisoning. Look at any harem and see it was a political battlefield where women ruled. So, with that said, I'm certainly not bashing masculine. It's not for that. It's not for you, Water Bear, to excuse it. It's for you to kind of talk about it. And my son is also going to join. And I think I'm going to just sit back and let you just go with it. What are your thoughts on where we've gone wrong? Why of this?
Yeah. So I think what would be really helpful is to understand why. First, let's identify where we are, because we all have different views and perceptions, and some people are very optimistic about their lives, their situation. I think it's really important to point out that we are being our point of view is being siphoned or controlled or manipulated by what is promoted on each of there's look, it's obvious if someone in control of YouTube or whatever platform it is, TikTok, whatever, wants to put a specific topic to the top of the agenda, they can very easily do that. And so it's the same as mainstream TV or radio or newspaper. It has that ability. Now, obviously, we can all like things a lot and make sure that we get that signal out to show what we feel is valuable. But the narrative that's been continually progressively pushed is that women can do what they want and be how they want, and unfortunately that's led to not everyone, but there's some toxic femininity which selfishly makes the men feel like they have to be servants to the feminine, and that has led to a lot of toxicity that's come back. Now obviously we can look at male toxicity as well. There's no doubt about it that the original male chauvinistic pig, if you like, that category of male, it's kind of a natural phenomenon, but it's been put on, hasn't it? If you look at it, the men have been rewarded in movies for being this sort of James Bond cavalier, and if they're rewarded then for mimicking that in society, then it's very easy for men then to see reward for being harsh, manipulative, controlling, and very self-centered. And to some degree, a man you can rely on is somebody that won't accept any bullshit, but he's not necessarily manipulative, right? You want someone that you can rely on, that stands in their own power, who understands what it is to be in alignment with their masculine energy. But if you manipulate others and ultimately use them, so what I'm trying to get at is we have a lot of unfair takers on both sides of the gender roles. And if we want to specifically look at why masculines are behaving the way they are, it's kind of like a survival reaction to not feeling safe to open up and share. Because if you go out there, and I've chatted with Tony about this previously, and the girlfriend experience is the experience of being of feeling like you're in a relationship, but actually you're just giving your finances and your resources, but what you're getting is unfairly a temporary, you don't know when it's going to end, relationship. And this is not labeling all feminines out there, but it's absolutely the toxic feminine that is triggering the masculine to be in this like I'm checking out vibe, right?
Yeah.
This male checking out vibe is really common now. And it's not surprising because the mainstream media is promoting these shocking incidences of, girls being with hundreds of thousands men, right?
Yeah, well, I
And
mean,
what does that do? It cements the idea that women there's not that it's not safe out there. That women are just going to be um, takers and do nasty things, right? So how do you rebuild? So now we understand the problem, right? We understand generally what is the triggering force that's making men act in now you can have a lot of abuse from childhood and that again can lead you down the route of, well, I'm going to copy the coping strategy of my dad, right? So the generational trauma patterns loop over, but they're reinforced with the feminine patterns. So you see this kind of vicious loop that never ends because the feminine confirm to the masculine that it's not safe, that you have to treat us like objects and reward us only with monetary gain and experiences, and that the deep connections and love are not safe. And so they're not rewarded, they're not talked about early in relationships, they're kind of shunned away from in the mainstream typical accepted topics of conversation. And I was saying to Tony before that we have to understand that building a community of people that you feel safe and trust in
mhm.
is so important. If you can have people that you know will have your back, when you bring in people to that community and you find a partner in that community, there's a certain amount of accountability that would be there. But in this kind of decentralized dating culture, it's probably a good way to describe it. What you notice is people do not feel accountable. There's a throwaway culture. It's like, if this doesn't work, it doesn't matter. And it's important to look after yourself and to protect yourself. But if you can't ever feel like there's any point in opening up or deepening a connection, then where is that going to leave you? It's going to leave you in this protective state of not feeling like it's safe to open up and develop a connection with someone.
Yeah, but the thing is, can I jump in? I'm going to say
You please do. Yeah.
one of the things that is happening. First of all, let's talk about Bonnie Blue. Let's just throw that on the table. So, and it's funny how we deconstructed the term bimbo. So I'm going to deconstruct it because, Water Bear
Yeah.
was saying bimbo.
Define the term bimbo. That's a really good place to start. Yeah.
Let's start out with that because I think it's important because I'm at a certain age, I'm a boomer where I thought today we would have better women than we do today. And I'm in shock. Frankly, I'm in shock because we went through fucking hell. A woman in America didn't get her first credit card until 1972 or 1970. It doesn't matter. The 1970s. That's my point. And now we have, so the term bimbo. The term bimbo, in my humble, when I throw it, and I know it triggers some of you women. You get really, I know you do. And so the bimbo for me is this. It's a woman who is actually a barracuda. She's actually quite dangerous because she plays a damsel in distress, because she plays like she doesn't know, but she knows exactly what she's doing. She doesn't care. She wants her pleasure. She wants as much material, things to gain. She wants that Birkin bag, the Rolex watch, the private plane. She wants to capture a man with her womb to make sure that she's solidified that she's going to get half. There are multiple aspects of it, and there are bimbos that are smart, and meaning smart, meaning they will become multimillionaires. Okay, and they on their own right from the right marriage and the right divorce. And then you've got bimbos who are just slovenly, sloppy, and all they want. And I know this for a fact because I worked at a company as a tarot reader. I can't tell you how many women would say, well, am I going to get pregnant? I'm like, but he's married. I saw that in the car. Oh yeah, I know he's married. So what? I just want to, so I've heard many, many women who went after men knowingly who were married or in a committed relationship. To me, that's a bimbo. Now let's go to Bonnie Blue. Bonnie Blue wants the money. And Bonnie Blue has taken, so she's one woman let's put it in perspective, 1,000 men, one woman, one bimbo, and the question is 1,000 men, and I'm going to be very politically incorrect and I don't give a shit. And many of them are following very strict religious rules. They're devotees to certain things that are twisted to their own advantage. And there was a situation recently, I don't know if it was Bonnie Blue or some other, there's another chick, I forgot her name and I don't care. I'm not going to even try to remember. And a mother found out her son was on the stairwells waiting for his turn and drug his ass out, a mother. So with everything I've said, now that we know what bimbo means in my term, and you hopefully it resonates for you women and men, we also have masculine bimbos. It isn't a gender term that I use. There's also masculine bimbos with the same agendas. They want what they want, and they don't care who gets hurt in the process of that. And we've come so far that now we have a massive gender war by design, which now that they know that we know about Mary Magdalena and the divine coupling of Yeshua and Mary Magdalena, which was kept secret for 2,000 years, there's still people walking the planet right now who don't know their true union. That was done by design to separate the genders from their power, because a woman and a man stand together, they are fucking magic. When they're in love with each other, they love each other, and they're together, nothing can destroy that. And so it's been destroyed through infrastructure systems, bills, taxes, bullshit, and things of that nature. And now the gender wars are on. Porno being one of the things that has been, you know, it's like a flex to be on Playboy magazine. What the fuck is going on here? Don't forget, Brooke Shields at the age of 12 was in Playboy. So I'm not applauding that in any level in the 1970s. So my point to you is we have brainwashed the masculine consciousness, because if you tell a man don't catcall, he'll say, well, it's normal, that's just what men do. And also psychologists have normalized men, grown-ass men in their 40s, 50s, 60s, going after 14, 15, 16 underage girls. Okay, let's just put it that way, normalizing it as saying it's a development.
Yeah, development or minorly attracted persons. That's what they call them.
This is my son Barron, by the way. So that is a problem, and it's a divide and conquer that women and men are like literally playing right into the hands of the 1%. What are your thoughts on that?
Red Mama asks a question. We will get. I'll just read it and then I'll answer your point. She says, "How do we heal both sides, thinking the other are the takers?" And really, there's a discernment aspect to that. Mm-hmm. So, you mentioned like attracted minors. You want me to talk about that?
I want to talk about the masculine perspective and why do you think it's been so successfully normalized? Even psychologists writing a book on that being normal.
Sorry, on what specifically? Pornography?
Pornography being part of that whole deal of normalizing men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s being attracted and wanting to, pursue underage girls or women that look underage, and normalizing it through pornography. And now psychologists are saying it's part of the evolutionary system. You were going to say.
Okay. So I did mention this on our conversation before. Manufactured consent is the idea of we are told, we are mentally programmed by mainstream media what is the topic of conversation and what is not the topic of conversation, what is allowed to talk about and what is not allowed to talk about. And you've heard of the analogy of the boiling frog doesn't jump out of the pot if you warm them up slowly. While it's obvious that there is many reasons and many people that are absolutely are disgusted by much of the mainstream content that is in the corn websites, and that is being normalized because of these trends. And obviously there's massive money to be made out of the advertising network on these free corn sites. And that is a monetary beneficial reason why that's happening, and that's going to get an extraordinary amount of attention, but it's also distracting men from understanding what is going on. It's like a numbing agent.
Mm-hmm.
It's a self-inflicted numbing agent, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you can, I mean, like all drugs and all habitual toxic coping strategies like gambling, they tickle the brain. Like social media, it tickles the brain. It gives you your dopamine hit. It ultimately silences the desires of the person because it satisfies you temporarily, and that is why you get massive problems with depression and things like that, because all of these toxic coping strategies lead to maladaptive the maladaptive human condition, the suffering and the depression and etc etc. So when you're asking me why is that really the question, Tony? Why is that here?
No, it's not so much why is that here. I know why it's here. It's to control, like I said,
Yeah.
I'm being very delicate. The root chakra of a masculine. When you own the root chakra of a masculine, you own his entirety. And I know.
Yeah.
I mean, don't think from between your legs. Think with your heart, actually. But the question to what Yeti Mommy is asking, which is how do you heal both sides thinking the other are, you don't think the other is out to fuck you. That's how you heal that. You approach each individual as an individual, not as a collective example of all masculines cheat.
Yep, I agree with you. And the underlying question there is, how do you help people to believe that, to know that?
But that's why because that's why there's such an incredible agenda to destroy the concept of twin flames. Because
True.
Right? Because when twin flames are in separation, Barron's going to bring up something that's really important that came up that's just so fucking insane. Once you separate the twin flames, right, and you create all of these loops, right, and you actually set up a situation where they can't be together, not because it's the 1880s, but because of ego, fear, betrayal. Many starseed twins are addicted to shit. Masculines have been trained from the giddy up to be controlled by their root chakra through porn. All of these aspects are part of the normalization that men and women are like cats and dogs. Let's be honest. They've like dehumanized us on a massive scale.
That is it. Is it in a nutshell, the dehumanization of the divine masculine and feminine through the debasement experiences that are being, bombarded at us, right? They're bombarded at.
And now it's, but bring up what you were going to bring up, because this is really important.
Yeah, what I was going to bring up basically is also, which is one of my videos on my social media on TikTok, is the great.
Hi, Barron.
Hi, how are you? It's just the great. Good. Thank you. It's just the great male divergence is happening right now. There's basically the men that are staying behind, which there is going to be a lot of them. A lot of them are not going to survive. Figuratively, as you probably know, they're going to. But at the same time, it's Hooters actually going bankrupt and filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And I didn't even know this, when I used to go to Trader Joe's with my mother. But I didn't even know there was a Hooters right next door to Trader Joe's. I had no clue of it whatsoever. So I have her to thank, plus my parents to thank, for basically raising me right when it comes to sexuality. But when it comes to Hooters, the only people that are coming inside are basically older men. And all the girls are saying that now. Like, I've been going to some of these girls' social media pages. Like, it's not like the old days when it was just girls clocking in for work and everything. No, these are businesses. These are ventures. These are women trying to basically fly out, get flown out to different places and everything, get paid, get their money. And, it's soul debilitating work, but these girls are saying none of these young men are coming in. Like, none of the men within our age group are even coming in. They don't even want anything to do with us. It's basically just old men. It's basically their fathers, grandfathers, uncles that are coming in. It's not even.
So it's a boomer. It's the boomer generation. It's men in their 40s and above that are going. And Hooters, just to explain, Hooters is a place where girls, very young girls, usually under 25, typically, and broke, and are waitressing hamburgers and fries and milkshakes to old dirty old men.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exposed. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're exposed in multiple ways, and they get groped at, and they get leered at, and they get ogled at, and all of that. And so these restaurants finally are fucking going through chapter, their bankruptcy, and so that is a massive sign. It has nothing to do with the economy. It has to do with a split, like Barron was saying, divergence of the masculines that are happening as we speak.
The great divergence. That's what they call it.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
A lot of men, like I said, a lot of men are either they're going to be advancing, like me, like you, who I'm speaking to, and a lot of men, sadly, unfortunately, will wither away within their existence.
Yeah.
Or they'll become a shell of themselves. Basically, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
That's basically what's happening. I mean, they're projecting by 2030 that 45 or 50% of women will be single. It's like most men are already single to begin with. So when that goes up in 2030, basically, what is the percentage of men that'll actually be single? It'll be probably like 75, maybe 80% of men that'll be single, literally. So it all coincides basically back into the great divergence, because the great divergence isn't just the masculine, basically, when it comes to both good men advancing and then bad men or just low vibration men staying behind. It's also with the women as well. It's the great twin flame.
Yeah.
That's what they're after. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We can't, and the reason why I call it the great divergence is because I'm sorry to tell everybody on this live stream, but the truth of the matter of fact in life is this. You cannot save everybody. That's the truth. We can save a lot of people. We can save a lot of masculines. We can save a lot of feminines. But we cannot save everybody. People need to choose to save themselves as well and want to actually listen. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And I say this for both men and women.
Yeah, I agree. There are too many angry women, in my opinion. It's way too many. And there's angry men, obviously. And women are getting angry at the robots. And the robots. Talk about the robots and what do you think that signifies in the consciousness of men who would go after robots that look like 19-year-old girls, 20-year-old girls, whatever. Mm-hmm.
So go on, Barron. Do you want me to talk, or are you going to say something on that?
I want to go after you. I want to hear what you have to say and then add
Yeah,
on.
I mean, like from a spiritual energy perspective, the man that thinks he's going to find some sort of fulfillment of any sort of meaningful quality that's going to have a lasting impact on the beneficial ability to enjoy. I mean, it's kind of, you can't even say it, can you? There is no benefit from being with a robot. It's not spiritually fulfilling. Love is a spiritual connection between the masculine and the feminine energies, right? And I'm specifically saying energies because it's really important that people realize that you don't get the opposite attraction energy from a robot. It doesn't exist. No. It's an object. It's a piece of plastic. It's a piece of rubber, whatever you want to call it. It is not the connection. And the reason that we, as human beings, long for our twin flame opposite energy, masculine, feminine energy that we desire, is because of the fulfillment of that energy, the light connections, the heart chakras, the chakras as they align. If you're talking about a real divine sacred connection, each one of those energy centers connect to you with the other person, and it becomes as close as you can be to being God in a relationship. And I hope that doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, but it's my belief. And I do believe that connection is what we all aspire to. And some of us may only find it in a very base level in certain relationships. But what you're hoping for is intimacy, physical intimacy, heart connection, the meeting of the minds, the fulfillment of these different heart chakras through different experiences in deepening level of intimacy and connection and meaning, and it happens over decades, and that is what fulfills me. That is the desire and the connection that I am open to.
Right. What are you going to say?
Oh, I was going to basically say when it came to adding on to the robots is that's the thing. I mean, when men basically hire, let's just, a call girl. When they hire a call girl, basically, let's be real. I mean, most of the desires that men want to do with that supposed call girl, basically, It's to be paid, and it's also to be paid by time plus hour. That's how a call girl grows.
Right.
And when it comes to a robot, basically, I feel like when it comes to the quick dopamine, because as we talked earlier, basically the quick dopamine response, it's going to basically overwhelm the dopamine so much to a certain point, basically, where that's where I'm saying, like, you're not going to be able to reclaim some of that masculine energy, if not even most of it, back, because it's already been gone. It's already been withered away, basically, through something that is silicone and plastic. Because something that is silicone and plastic, it's nothing. It's essentially nothing. I mean, if we really think about it, it's atomless. It's man-made, basically. And we're putting energy, basically, into something that's basically.
But Barron, could I ask a question?
Sure, yeah.
Do you feel any hope in there being some sort of pathway for anyone that's been in that kind of addiction? Because it really is an addiction like any other drug, right? Do you think that there is a pathway for people?
I like I like that you're asking me this, but when it comes to that kind of addiction, how deep are we talking? Because there's different levels to, say, corn addiction, basically.
So, I understand the 12-step program for Alcoholics Anonymous, and it really is the same for drug addiction. Ultimately, what it does is it makes you accept accountability, responsibility for being a large part of the cause as to how you ended up falling down that pit and then staying down there by choice. Doesn't mean it's very easy to get out of, but by accepting that there and then being in a brotherhood, and that is the point, being in a brotherhood of survivors who can say to you day by day, you will get out of that hole. Yeah. And it is my insight here to show people the steps of how you become aware of the power that you gave away and reclaim it. The awareness is step one.
Yeah.
The forgiveness to yourself and to others, past generations, etc. There's a whole step process that I've been putting together for helping masculines specifically to get out of their pain and trauma and back into their resourcefulness and back into their emotional heart, their presence, their power, their true masculinity, so that they can start being who God born them to be,
like
who made them.
I agree with you. No, I definitely agree that there is a 12. I bet it would be the same as a 12-step process or something similar to a 12-step process.
There are similarities, but it's a much more self-discovery, intimate process. But it will not work if you don't have the brotherhood behind you to help you be accountable. That's one of the massively magical things about the 12-step program.
Yes. No, I mean, like I said, I believe that you can help these people. When it comes to getting a person back from that, you can. But the problem is that we're not talking about like an average, functioning drug addiction. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about, we're talking about something that is completely inward within themselves. We're talking about their energy system. Like, yes, it's something that's outside. It's something that is foreign to that person, that is visualization, like something that's on a screen with a bunch of pixels. It is. But at the same time, it basically is what you are seeing. Like, if I were to take something, it's something that is foreign. It's something that's going to be out of me, basically. Like, I could feel for most people, plus a lot of therapists have actually done this study. It's easier for people to actually get off of alcohol and to get off of, drugs than it is to actually quit corn addiction, literally. Because the dopamine level and response is so high when it comes to those visualization and those effects, basically. And you're also tapping into something that is basically thousands, if not thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, since the very existence of humanity, which is our sexuality. Something
that but it's been corrupted. It's been hacked. It's been hacked. And when you ask, is there a way? Can we? So I'm gonna, as a feminine, I'm gonna say, ancient priestesses used to actually help men heal, because also being out of battle in war would screw up their root chakra, where they couldn't perform. Okay, so they couldn't make love to their man or a woman. It didn't matter. They couldn't make love anymore. And so the high priestesses had a process, which I talked about in one of my videos. And the process was really simple. It was very organic. It was very healing. It was a lot of talking, a lot of walking, a lot of healing of the actual physical wounds, and letting the man talk. And men, the problem with men, and straight up, and women are raising men. Let's never forget that these men that we are complaining about have been raised, or the very moment of their birthing came from between the legs of a woman. Let's never forget that. I don't give a shit about politically correct and fucking pronouns. This is not the time. The time is biologically for thousands of years. That's been the truth. And the problem with the masculines coming out of us, right, is that especially if they're going to be their mother, or there's a feminine caretaker at the onset, that at some point there's shaming in the most basic things of the sexual development of boys, and it's subtle. It's based on religious beliefs. I'm just going to throw up what our problem is. Sure. And so when we're looking at this anger, this innate anger that's many men have against their mothers, initially the mother or the mother abandonment wound because they were thrown away in foster care and things of that nature, shit like that. The robot agenda is interesting. They're selling companionship. They're not. Companionship is, hey, I read this esoteric book. Let's share it together. No, they're sharing. What they're selling is the ability for this man to take all of his frustration on a plastic model that has no IQ or low IQ, 70 IQ or something, so it's manageable. It's going to do everything it wants it to do, and he can abuse it. We know this from some of the examples that we saw through Telegram, where men were talking about what they were going to do to women, relatives. I mean, we're talking about, it was pretty bad. And we've seen that again and again. We saw Congo, where 120 men escaped from jail, and the chivalry. This is why I promoted this live as a chivalry type of thing. It wasn't to save the women in jail. It was to grape them, since we have to use the fruit for this term, and take their lives, rip their lives out of them. So in the old days, maybe 200-300 years ago, it would have been that men would have actually escaped from jail and released the women and gone on to create their own tribal systems. Where have we gone wrong? Well, I mean, the kind of toxic wars that are in energetic fields that is wrapping the planet. So what men do in the Congo, what men do in India to women, is a vibrational force. It has its own egregore, and it envelops the consciousness of, say, Western men. And that has been also promoted through pornography. And I remember Playboy magazines that my dad had, and every girl was never 20. She was always 18 or 19, I never forgot that. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. So I'm wrapping a lot of things, and I know it's not even a question. It's from that point of view, from my own personal feminine perspective. How do you feel is going to be the toppling of the 1% that knew that they can control us, and they've been using different things throughout the 100 years. Every 100 years, or every 75 years, or every generation, they have something new to throw on the table to fuck our consciousness up. Sex being probably the easiest thing. And in terms of how do we heal these men, the old-fashioned way, organically, slowly, with time. And these men need to show up to say, I want to be healed. If they don't want to be healed, let them go with their little robots and let them blow. In other words,
just let them wither away.
They're gonna wither. They're gonna implode. They're going to, because
the free will is divine, right? It doesn't work if you don't have free will, and so we have to allow.
Well, I mean, it's like anything. If you're a heroin addict, you need to show up to and say, I need help. I want to heal. If you don't want to heal, then no one can help you. It doesn't matter if other people who love you want you to heal. You can't. So the first thing is you have to, as a human being, and there are women also who are PEDOs. Okay, that's not just a man thing. Just on the so you have to look in the mirror and go, do I like who I am? And do I like myself sexually? Do I like myself as a human being? Do I like myself as a soul? And if the answer is no, then fucking try to work on it and be gentle with yourself and say, these are the steps I'm going to take. These are the people I'm going to seek out. These are the resources I'm going to access. And yes, you're going to be disappointed. There are resources that are fucking fucked up. That you got judgmental people who play like they're psychologists who are fucked up. You're gonna hit walls. And this is why we who are healing on the healing journey, like you, Water Bear, and my son, myself, and other people like us, Andromeda Flame, for example, other people, right? We need to create communities that are up and running. So when people are hurting, we can say, come here, brother, come here, sister, we got you, we'll help you. That's what we have to do. Create communities that are open to all of this. And religious belief systems that are dogmatic, that have shamed us. It doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck what the religion is. They've all shamed our root chakra. This is what we're trying to excavate in this many of us are going through our last 3D planet Earth incarnation. And we are fucking intensely pursuing that final healing step of the root chakra to release all that bullshit. And what are your thoughts on that, or any of it, or your own, or something else completely? What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, you covered so many things there, but I think it's no doubt that there are toxic versions of the feminine and masculine across many different time periods in history, and we all have free will, and damn if we've got to allow people to make their mistakes and then decide if they want to heal. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's an extraordinary amount of virtue signal healing going on. Yeah. That's not real healing. It's just pretending to heal. It's being part of it, but not actually doing it. And that to me is a big problem, because it's making a joke of the healing process. It's making a joke of really understanding yourself. I mean, one thing that's quite clearly going on is people get stuck in self-victimization, blaming others and not taking. I mean, it's very important to be heard, to know, for somebody to acknowledge your pain and your suffering. But really, that's where the healing journey starts and the self-victimization ends. But people stay stuck in it. And it ends up being this, like, I'm so sad, I'm so bad, I've hurt so much, and now you're stuck. And I'm not pointing fingers, but it's very easy for that to become an identity, and for then you don't move on any further. And I have to say that the amount of shame that would be happening if you are stuck in a negative habit, whether it's drugs or masturbation or whatever, if you're doing it to the point where you know that it is damaging you, it is stopping you from really being free to just get on with your life and open up to connections, that's important. But it's just one of those toxic coping strategies, just like self-victimization. Self-love is really the opposite of self-victimization. It's saying, I will not entertain that negative thought or behavior. I'll write it down. I'll write it down in a little notepad, what I'm feeling and what I keep ruminating about, but then I'll leave it on that piece of paper, and I'll now be free because I'm going to choose to be free. And I'm going to seek my brotherhood, my group of healers to be with, to guide me and to help me out of my stuck state and into my freedom and into my ability to be in a community where I can feel safe, where we can learn to align with values and virtues that make it easy for us to go, I know what I want, and I can discern when somebody doesn't align with what I want, and lovingly bless them out of my life and find people that will align with me. And that's what we all want.
Yeah.
But we don't do it because we feel stuck. We don't know how to move on to the next step. And it is not by accident. It's by design. We are separated by a device. that
Yeah.
allows you to hear my voice, but not be in my physical presence. And that is on purpose. It is a wonderful tool, but it is a tool of separation and monitoring. But separation is by far the most important tool, right?
Yeah.
Building community where we can develop discernment and trust and love and compassion, and allow ourselves to then use that new collective awareness of what is right and wrong. There is a new social contract, whether you like it or not. It is in manifestation right now. We are all part of it. These things that are going on with what was her name?
Bonnie Blue.
Donny Blue. I mean, well, it's trying to see how people react.
Yeah.
Yes, they want the disgust. They want the remanifestation of a more sensible, less sexual society, and it's a great way to manifest it. I'm not saying I agree with what's going on, but that shock
Yeah.
is going to create disgust, and it is going to make people go, "I don't want that.
Yeah.
I absolutely don't want that." What's caused that? Oh,
Yeah.
hold on a minute. Some of my behavior and my not speaking up has allowed that, has encouraged that.
Yeah.
Now we have to go.
But
I'm not saying we need to be violent towards people like that, but verbally rejecting that behavior is important.
yeah, but you have to give you and I think what you said is brilliant because it's absolutely true. It is going to create a revulsion, a knee jerk where people are being repelled away from sacred sexuality. But the point is, most people don't even understand what tantra is, true tantra, and they think it's because it's been hijacked and bastardized by hedonists who call tantra what they do, tantra, and they're I'm going to be straight up again. I don't care if it offends anyone. Polyamorous communities have been using tantra and misusing it, and so now what happens is we have the overt, toxic, sloppy. Come on, that's sloppy. Bonnie Blue, 1,000 men in like at 24 hours or whatever the hell it was. Give me a break. The fact that people want to. We have a problem with the masculine though, because we have one Bonnie Blue and 1,000 men, no, probably 15. I'm going to say 1,500 men standing in line for 3 seconds or 4 seconds, and these are fathers and mothers, and Barney Blue said things that would actually get this live removed. I'm going to try to say it in such a way. Bonnie Blue had an experience with a how do I put it? A father.
Two generations.
Yeah, 2 generations. Thank you. And she thought it was great. Instead of realizing that there was massive fucking psychological shit going on in that moment. Massive abuse. So
what is it saying to observers? What is it instructing energetically to the younger generation in that experience?
Yeah. Well,
It's unimaginable the toxicity that's going to come as a result of normalizing that sort of behavior.
Well, I mean, what it's saying, it's not what we're doing is we're not, again, the woke agenda, which was very, in my opinion, and again, I don't care if this offends you. There's a difference between awaken is spiritual understanding with self, learning more things about your spiritual awakening, understanding that we are in temporary vessels that are black, red, blue, yellow, polka dot. No race matters. No religion should be so centristic that it actually destroys people's very soul. If they're gay, if they're straight, if they're bi, religions have done that to people over the centuries. And that's why I'm so against organized orthodox religions, because look at the shit show, always based on that.
Always touching kids. Don't forget that.
Yeah. And so ultimately...
I didn't hear what you said, Barron. Could you say it louder?
And always touching kids and actually reverberating back into the sexual depravity within society that they supposedly claim to be against so much. So it's the hypocrisy that comes from it. But at the same time, it basically re-educates men to basically believe in the same things about women as you said previously. It's like, oh, just one in some the IQ or barely anything, just objects.
To control.
Basically. Yeah.
To control.
It just goes right back into
I mean, it happened to my twin where he was in a Catholic school and nuns were doing things to him when he was 9 and 10 that are shocking. Shocking. Okay, and so that would grow a young boy that's nervous, a child, into not trusting men. It would create a misogyny situation. I mean, it's common sense. It's no different. It's funny how women can understand that when a man is doing that to you and you're a little person, right? You're going to fucking fear men and hate men. It's just it's common sense.
Well, yeah. So what can quite often happen is you will find that your fear will turn into hatred and anger, and then you become the abuser because you cannot cope with handling the trauma.
Yeah.
But you get relief by inflicting trauma.
Right.
And that is the toxic loop of the victim abuser. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, so you just once you understand that the victim abuser loop is one that you can exit, but you must have courage to drop into the healing aspects of. I mean, ultimately, it's self-forgiveness and forgiveness of it's the honopono. It's like you must release the energy.
Yeah.
That is stored in the energy centers that is causing you incredibly unbearable pain, and the only relief you find is to repeat the abuse that you suffered. But once you understand that your lack of acceptance and your lack of courage to dive into the awareness of what happened, and you were violated, your trust was broken, the person that you trusted that should have loved you unconditionally and looked after you betrayed that trust and violated you. And once you get into that awareness and you start to realize the anger and suffering that you've been suppressing as a result of that, you can then start to find release and forgiveness. It is a process. It needs, you can do it in groups, you can do it one-on-one, but this is something that is incredibly beneficial, and it can happen in stages. It doesn't have to happen in one go. It's not like one and you're done, although it is possible. It really depends on the strength of the individual and the capacity to go within. What do you think about all that?
I really don't think it's that difficult, actually. It's really simple. Yeah.
It's courage. If you're courageous, you can do it. Yeah.
I don't think it's correct. I think we need to stop complicating this. I was molested. I will never do that to another human being. It's really that simple. It's really, you don't even have to go into your own healing to make that decision. So the abuser is a coping strategy. It doesn't happen to everybody. Some people will be in a constant trauma loop and avoid love and connection because they fear that abuse happening again. So there is not one, crazy eight loop that goes on. Do you know what I mean? It's you find the coping strategy that settles your trauma, and for some it's become the abuser. For others, it's hide away or self-abuse. I mean, you pick your poison, right? Yeah, no, I understand that, but the most important thing I think for me isn't the self-abuse, because to be honest with you, that is something that most people can't escape. That's why most people are addicted. Typically, addicted people, it doesn't matter what the addiction is, have had some kind of trauma as children. However, okay, so there's going to be some self-harming going on. That there's no question that's much more difficult, and that's going to be a massive excavation. However, if you've been abused, okay, then it is not a hard thing to say, whatever my parents did to me or whatever, I'm doing the fucking complete opposite. And that's a bond and a pact that will not waver. Of this concept that because you've been, abused, you're now a PEDO, And that's why it's to me that is the stupidest example. It's inexcusable to use it as an excuse. What are your thoughts?
It is, and it basically fails future victims as well. Future victims of this, basically, it fails them as well, because now we're just going to have sympathy and understanding. Like, yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you when you were a kid. That doesn't just give you the right to go out and just hurt some other person who's like innocent,
And that's
person. It's like,
yeah, and I feel like we're giving with the woke. This is why I'm having
I'm
a
seeing
problem.
women doing this. I'm seeing it's not the men, like the men are the of course, but
Yeah.
it's just I'm actually seeing women have fucking acceptance for this. I'm like, wait a minute, so you don't have acceptance for some man? Okay, yeah, some of his views on women are bad. Andrew Tate, basically, you don't like him, but you're actually completely fine with this, like these female scientists basically saying, oh, it's minorly attracted persons. It happened to you, so now you're it, basically, and fucking, it's this forgiveful language,
Toxic forgiveness.
Like, it's like, what the hell? Like,
yeah, that is dangerous.
It's interesting, because that is definitely something that I got a lot to say about. Can Karen please?
I feel like that's why also it's just a lot of men, I feel like, don't listen to women, because it's like a lot of men within my generation. Yeah, and just I sometimes think this way as well. Women's feelings change like the weather. They change like the climate. That is, I'm sorry. Like, that's like when it comes. Like the things I say, my mom laughs at. A lot of women laugh at. Of course, it might sound a bit, but it's just a lot of us young men who are like taking the detour route when it comes to like dating, relationships, and stuff. We're just being like, okay, like if we can't do this, if there's women that hate me, basically, or if I don't make enough money, basically, it's like, okay, I'll make enough money to a point where I can finally buy that supposed adult. Not most men are not doing that. Most of them are just getting a professional to go do it, basically. But it's like that's where it is now. It's this escapism, basically. Like, okay, either way, if I'm in a marriage, because I met these men. I met these men when I was 14 years of age. I joined a Red Pill MGTOW group when I was only 14 years of age, back in 2014. This was before all this internet stuff was really becoming mainstream and stuff. And most of the men, and even some of the men were like, what is a 14-year-old doing here? I mean, go in a minute, have your shit taken, then come back. That's what some men actually told me. Seriously. But I just wanted to understand these people, because it's like I wanted more masculine friends. I just gravitated more with older men, older people as well. I was just more mature as my age still am. But it's just, I basically talked with some of these men. And of course, they're misogynists, you could say. But a lot of it, like I spoke with these men, a lot of them got severely, severely, severely hurt by women that they deeply trust. That was their mothers. That was someone that was close to them. If it was, they got taken advantage of, when it comes to their root chakra. A lot of these men, like most of them, like some of them were just jerks. Some of them were just jerks born to begin with. But I would have to say like 75 or 80% of these men were literally from straight female trauma, straight, completely. And maybe you had a handful of men that went through like, an abusive father or this or that, but hands down, it was mostly abusive women that they were at the helm of. Literally, it was their own.
I want to do a little bit of a history lesson.
No.
The trauma patterns have come about from a large percentage of men going to war in the around the 1950s, right?
Yeah.
They came back from the war in the 1950s, and a lot of the women had to be everything. They had to be in their masculine energy.
Yeah.
And what you ended up with is then in the 1960s, you've got this liberation of women.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the end of segregation, right, going on at the same time. You've got the contraceptive pill creating another free liberation for women to be more in control of birth, right, whether they want to or not, in a way that's never been there before. And so with all of that unfolding, can you imagine when a woman decided, I don't want to be in that relationship anymore. Maybe for valid reasons, but many men ended up losing their partner.
Yeah.
And this pattern has caused such an immense amount of suffering. And if you can imagine being a son of someone whose divorce destroyed the family,
Yeah.
and that family then ended up not having any good quality of life because the finances weren't there, the support of the mother and father to that child are now separated and no longer there. And how many people have gone through that?
I mean,
More than not. I'd say more than not. More people went through that than didn't go through that in America and the UK and perhaps Canada. Don't know about France, don't know about Germany, but you could say probably that's true too there as well.
I agree, but I just wanted to say in regards to the contraceptive pill, like the contraceptive pill, like it's a great revolutionary innovation within technology. It definitely is. It definitely is when it comes to liberate. But at the same time, it's like
I use the word liberation in terms of meaning liberal, like woke. It's not necessarily good. The word liberation or liberal, it doesn't mean good. Wow. It's a defining point of freedom of choice. It's free will, but it can have a negative consequence, right?
Yeah, no, I do understand, but it's just when it comes to contraceptive, like they've done numerous studies. They've invited a bunch of people. They've psychotherapists, sexologists, all these people. I mean, they've basically invited these people in. They did this scientific experiment when it comes to these women, and I'm just going to say this to you right now: like women who are on the pill, and this is what I mean by women's feelings change like the climate. Women who are on the pill were not attracted to their husbands anymore. Like they started having this dismissiveness and all these things. They just hated they hated seeing the sight of their husbands. As soon as they got off the pill, like if they were with a man that was actually like they were attracted to preemptively, basically, they actually liked him to begin with. And some of these women, it's actually caused divorces when women actually get off the pill. It's really like. So that's what I'm saying. It distorts.
It's a sort of a lobotomy.
It is. It is. It is a lot of. It is a lobotomy.
It's a hormonal lobotomy.
It's a hormonal lobotomy. I mean, that's the thing. And then you actually have some dudes that are actually very scared. And of course, these dudes, by the looks of them, if you were to actually imagine a weak male, basically, they're scared. They're scared their woman's getting off the pill. They're scared the GOP is going to ban the pill. And everything's in their states, because we don't know what's going on politically. We don't, that's just, so a lot of men who haven't been doing the work, and this is why I call it the great divergence. And that's why I say the great divergence, it's not something that's good. It's not something that's bad. It's a neutral energy. A wall, when you think of a wall, it's something that is neutral. You can paint something that's beautiful, or you can paint ugly graffiti with a bunch of swearing and marks and everything like that. It is a neutral energy, the great divergence. And I feel as if what is happening is basically natural selection is going to happen. You're going to have men who actually, guess what? They'll proclaim to be woke. They'll proclaim to be, supposed male feminists, the wolves in sheep's clothing, that actually want to control women because they want them to be chemically and also hormonally lobotomized. Because these men are weak, they haven't done the work, and plus they'll never do the work, basically. And that's the truth. And then, so there's a great transition that's happening. There's people, a lot of people, yes, most people will be single. Most people are single, but you are going to see transitioning relationships that you have never seen before. And I say this to everybody who's viewing and watching this live stream right now. Like, it's big, 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 impactful stuff that is going to be happening within 2020s and 2030s decade.
Yeah, and you mean like the AI girlfriend or boyfriend, the not necessarily robotic prosthetic replacement, but it could additionally be that too, couldn't it? Is that mostly what you mean, or are you?
That's part of what I mean. But at the same time, and then one of my friends was like, it's just there's so many. Like, so many people are not dating anymore. I'm just trying to look for a man. So many people are not dating. And I'm just like, this is actually great. I mean, all the bad people are basically being paired up with the bad people. It's being turned into reality TV, which is just brain rot content. And it's showing us actually what to critique and what to actually not be. Right.
And Barron, what you're really highlighting is that as we teach each other how to find safe partners
Yep.
that can be, that can pitch and catch,
Mm-hmm.
that can express their mind and their emotions, that know when they're wrong and can say sorry,
Yep.
can be accountable for their actions, that want to develop a future, that don't mind, uh, having financial consequences, but at the same time will allow financial protections. I mean, in the end, like there are massive consequences if you have a child with a
Yep.
partner, yeah, and you want to be protected for that. But at the same time, it's so important that you have a meeting of minds and hearts before you do that sort of thing.
Of course. I mean, that's the problem that I see these days is that, and I say this for a lot of basically, I mean, the men have basically walked out, of course, but it's like for a lot of the women, there's this desperation of like, I need to have a kid. I need to have a kid. It's like, what are you talking about? You came from a single mother household. You came from a single parent household. You came, why would you want to start that cycle completely all over again? It's like that makes like zero. Fuck, I'm sorry. I've talked to so many women about this, and they're just like, I need to find a man. I need to find a man. Like you're gonna find a man if you do the right things, if you astrally project, if you meditate, if you go inward with yourself during sessions with yourself. Like you have to do the necessary work basically to actually manifest that into power, or else you're gonna just keep having the same vibrational frequency and keep attracting shitty, one-off, wham bam thinking man, men basically.
So, like my take on that is, if you don't get into the right energy, if you don't understand what it is that the patterns that you keep repeating, and heal those patterns, those triggers, and understand what it is that you keep attracting, and unfortunately, it's very hard to do that unless you go and try and be in a relationship and be in a connection. It doesn't mean you have to be physical, but you have to be emotionally open. You have to communicate verbally, and learn about yourself in a connection.
No.
But it is so important. Like once you can be on the path of learning and growing and understanding where your patterns are, and it is possible to do it outside of a relationship, but it's far more undeniable, and you can't ignore it when you're in a relationship. Tell me, Tony, like if you get into an argument, if you get triggered by your partner, it is an unforgettable experience.
Everything I've become is because of those triggers. It's so
There you are. I think that really says it a lot, right? Who we are is because of the experiences we've had.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
And look, and the decisions and meanings that we gave those experiences. Very important, because that is who you have become from your childhood and from your experiences before you had connections with people.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful, and it's true. And I think what I have when I talk to clients, most of my masculine clients are afraid of jumping all in, and they're in twin flame connections, and they're afraid because they don't feel like they're good enough. They're very, very mindful. They're not good enough. There's still more healing to do. Maybe I need to do some healing alone. Maybe I should do it alone. I should just be alone and do more healing. And I'm saying, no, dude, you guys are talking. You guys just please get together, commit to each other. Shit will happen. There'll be explosions, implosions, and you will actually survive them as long as you're not out to lose. If you are self-sabotaging because your self-loathing is massive, you can actually work on each other, on yourselves, individually, together, walk together, apart, but do it as much as you can together. There was this feeling, especially with the sacred masculine, who is very, very self-aware, right, of their own faults, right? They know what's not there. They know what's missing, right?
Money.
And usually it's money, but it's also because we do have a problem with that. You've got a lot of incredible, powerful influencers telling women, sprinkle, sprinkle, do your thing, right?
Yeah, he needs to make at least $500,000 a year. He needs to buy me a $50,000 engagement ring, a $100,000 finishing ring. Yeah, no, seriously.
I mean, and it's funny because most of these incredible expenses, like these big weddings.
I just have to thank the woman that said that on whatever post it was, because she's made it infinitely easier for me to identify that taker.
Yeah,
no, seriously,
that's true.
And that's what I'm saying.
That's
That's literally what I'm saying. Like, all the bad people are going away within the dating world. That's basically what's happening. I mean, no, seriously, like, all the good people, they basically have either gotten married, or they've taken a break, or they've gone overseas with their passport. I'm sorry, like, I know it goes, into the 3D perspective, getting your passport and finding love, but it's just, I have seen people in other countries basically have different perspectives. Plus, also, in some of these areas and countries have higher levels of vibration, which I'm like, okay, if you're going to travel over, and I said this to one of my friends, he's about to be married to a beautiful, gorgeous German woman who he's known for 4 years, and they're head over heels in love with each other, faithful with each other, and she's expecting a kid within the next 8 months, basically. So they love each other extremely much. But if you're going to go overseas, go to a place and with the right intentions, and plus spiritual and vibrational intentions, on meeting your twin flame or soulmate.
Right.
On those true things. Not something that's 3D of like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Not any, but that's what I'm saying. It goes back into all of the good people have either left or they've gone overseas. And all the bad people are basically showing us and giving us reality television. That's what's happening. That's what's happening.
Yeah. I love it. I think that in my experience, you can't know what it's going to be like until you do it. You can have some discernment and some needs that you express, but if you try to be too specific, I don't know. I mean, I've heard Tony Robbins say, like, you know who Tony Robbins is. Everyone knows who Tony Robbins is. Right. And if you don't, what are you doing here? Where have you been the last 20 years? Right. So he said he wrote down everything he wanted in his partner, Bonnie Sage. And he said that she was everything on his list.
That's fantastic.
And it basically, like, the point he's making is it's like the law of attraction that brought that into his life. You know, and perhaps he had no lessons to learn and no karma to go through, and so he was fortunate in that way. But let us not ignore the fact that he ended up being married to somebody before, who had 3 children with 3 different men, and then had the 4th child with him. And obviously he left when he was only about 2, when his son was only about 2. And then after a couple of years, I think he ended up with Sage. So it's interesting. So even he had karma to go through, a lesson to learn, and things to go through. I was going to mention about insecurities and say, like, there is a lot of if you're an empathic, people-pleasing type person, you can very easily take on other people's projections and energy and wounds and things like that and believe it's your own. And so understanding that is a possibility and learning how to discern that, it's going to be a very important skill. So how do you know that? It really comes down to fair energy exchange, taking a little bit of time. Don't rush into things so fast that you cannot tell if that person's really into you. For example, does that person reciprocate your feelings? Do they reciprocate an act? So if you do an act of goodwill, buy them a gift or do something nice for them, do they do something back? Even if it's just through intention that you find that, through the. Am I making sense here?
Yeah, you are perfectly, because
I think it's so easy to, through wishful thinking, paint somebody into the ideal image, and you kid yourself ultimately. The energy, if you can learn to spot somebody it's almost like, imagine a man coming of age. What are the tools in this day and age that define a man of coming of age? And I would like it to be this: go out there, son, and find yourself a toxic feminine, and make sure that you know why she's a toxic feminine. Make sure that you understand what she wants and why she's not for you. And then, son, go and find somebody who's of a positive energy, not because you want to be with them, but because you want to define the difference. You want to understand the difference. You want to use discernment. And to my mind, outside of the obvious skills of being capable physically, mentally, in skills, to survive and thrive, I think those are really important. What do you think?
I think those are very important, but at the same time, just reciprocate. The simplest, easiest fucking thing I think in the world for women could do is also reciprocate conversation. I mean, men are not always supposed to be the conversation. Like, yes, men are the ones who are supposed to go up to a woman, propose, like ask out, you could say, and stuff like that. Yes, agree. Yes. But
so I found conversationally, I can find a lot of reciprocity, not a problem.
Yeah.
The challenge is when it comes to discernment of committing an energy, and it takes time. It takes time. It takes experience. It takes, it may simply be not for you.
Yeah, but I mean,
you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily mean one is toxic, one is good, but it's kind of, for me, it feels like an awareness skill that would be helpful.
But the thing about giving, just the concept of giving is taught in the family unit. So
true, yeah, or not taught in the family unit, yeah.
All of it. Cooking.
Not learned.
Kids learn how to cook by the time they're 5. They should be cooking in the kitchen with you. Number one, they should be doing things with you. They should be seeing you giving love to your man if you're a woman. They should be seeing you giving love to your woman if you're. Do you understand? They need to see that. They need to see what that looks like. No, but
so the challenge, Tony, the challenge is when relationships break down and there are single parent households, those experiences are disjointed and imbalanced at best.
But when I guess what I'm getting to is that they will see the example on how a man gives to his mother, his aunt, a friend, and vice versa to a woman, giving a bottle of cologne to her uncle, giving flowers to her father, giving, if not a father figure, a male friend, a gay male friend. Let's go get some skincare for Uncle Bobby. Whatever. Do you know, I'm not for his birthday. The kid will need to be a part of these decisions, because that will actually seed the child into becoming, understanding what it is to give, understanding what it is to overgive. This is where you get on one knee to an 8-year-old if you're having a fight in a marriage or a situation, and say to your 8-year-old kid, "That's not normal relationship. Don't think this is fucking normal." You got to talk to your kid. Especially if you're going to witness the bullshit. So
it's incredibly difficult, because I know how easy it is to learn through observing experiences as a child. Exactly. But it's very hard to hear words from a parent and for that to be your lesson.
But you have to still do it, because, or else you're not repairing. You're not even trying to repair the damage. It's like dropping shit on the floor, and we'll just kick it over. No one will notice.
It's interesting, because as a kind of more empathic person, I identify myself as having a deep level of empathy. I've witnessed experiences from being emotionally very sensitive and saying, that's not for me. I do not resonate with that behavior. Exactly. And so there was a lot, I'm talking about from the ages of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that, like all of those years, having so many experiences that I do not resonate with.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
With,
Jennifer, hang on. Jennifer says we need to normalize helping each other too. Exactly. You were going to
yeah.
say, sorry,
I
Barron.
don't know. I was just basically gonna say, like, from observation, like even when I was 8 and 9, like your guys' marriage, but also just other people's
Yeah.
marriages. I just I'm in the same point in my life right now where it's just like I don't want to get married. Like I want to be faithful. I definitely want to be faithful. I definitely want to have a family and stuff like that. But it's just like I'm like holy shit. It's like as soon as this person gets married, because I was speaking with my coworkers, and sometimes when the wife gets pregnant and this and that, she basically lets herself go. Sometimes when the man basically gets married, he lets himself go. He just becomes overweight, doesn't want to have this or that or SEX basically anymore. And it's just like just looking at a lot of relationships today, I'm like, you can basically because I've seen people who are married in terrible marriages where it's not even based on love at all. It's just either lust or it's just money. And I've seen people where it's like they're not even married, but they're the greatest couples in the world. And some of these people have been together for 40 something years, and they are gonna die together. Like that's
Like Goldie Hawn and
yeah.
what's his name? Yeah. I
It's
don't.
interesting.
What do you think? Do you think a piece of paper defines
I
commitment
don't
and
think it
love?
does.
And I don't know. Go ahead.
So I was going to say that the energy
Probably
that you approach a relationship with is where it's going to be the most valuable for you. Really get out of your brain and into your heart, and then use discernment if it resonates in your heart. Because yes, fine. If you don't want to get married, make it definable that you want a strong connection that clearly has legs for the long term, and by all means, voice the fact that you don't want someone to be not valuing physical and spiritual virtues, to look after themselves and to follow a certain path. These things are important. So having that down is helpful, but getting into the heart resonance with someone is going to be how you do it. But you have to have that kind of, when you're manifesting, really you're talking about aligning your emotions and your intentions with an outcome, and then allowing the universe to bring in what is available on that frequency.
Yeah.
And when you can find a relationship that does resonate as much as possible with who you are, right? Then the universe is bringing into you what it can align you with, and hopefully as well not give you too many difficult experiences to go through, because we all have. I do believe that in this life, and it does resonate from my experiences, that we are learning, we are going through spiritual, emotional, relational experiences, and there's nothing we can do to stop what is meant for us. It was decided before we incarnated. Are you with me on this,
Yeah.
Tony, or do you not agree with that?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think for some people, like Red Mama Yeti says, marriage can make women feel contained in a form of safety through the laws, though the laws need adjustment.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, you can make your own marriage contract using a prenuptial agreement, and you could do it. I've had some interesting conversations with people saying, why wouldn't you allow a 1 year get out of jail free, 2 years it's a limited, financial exposure from the man. If a child comes along, it gets more consequential for the man, obviously, and you can ratchet it up as a way in which, obviously, do you believe that fairness is decided by the government and we should just accept it? I don't. I never believed that in the first instance. I think in a relationship, you should be able to decide what you think is fair, and part of that conversation is going to be how your whole marriage goes, right? In agreeing that.
You have to work. You have to write what your intention is to the universe. But on the side note,
I like that. Write it down. Choose it.
yeah,
Before.
one of the things I loved about how the Irish saved civilization, besides the Arabs, in that book, it talked about how in the ancient tradition of Ireland, every year, once a year, they all would meet, all the couples would meet, whatever, and they would decide if their marriage was going to continue another year. And if they didn't want to, they would actually split. They would divorce on the spot. In other words, separate. There was no marriage contract in the way Catholicism brought to their island, right? So they would do that, and they would couple with other men and women. They would choose. There was a power and a very healthy. honest equality, it looks like to me, in the ancient Irish culture. And so it wasn't the abandonment issues that one talks about through marriage. I think women take it too far. I'm going to be too straight up. Most marriages I found that went for 20 plus years or more, were usually marriage at City Hall, marriages in the dress you had in your closet. These women going out and paying $10,000 for a dress, all that bullshit.
Won't even last 10 years.
It won't even last seven.
No.
Actually, 7 years. So they'll spend 50 grand or 10 grand or whatever, and you say yes to the dress kind of bullshit shows, entertaining but stupid. Because in a way, that's not what defines the structure of the marriage. So in a way, what Barron is saying is interesting to me because like my parents' marriage, 27 years, my marriage, 33 years, all in whatever the fuck we had in the closet. And it's so weird to me. And this is not just my experience. I've been listening to people from all over the world who have said, yeah, we went to Gibraltar to marry, and we've been married 30 years, happily married 30 years. So I don't know. I think women need to make the priority, the relationship, the connection, the soul connection. They need to make sure, am I getting married because it's a Jane Austen moment, it makes sense on paper, or do I really, really am crazy about this man and he's crazy about me? And on that level, then it's a union, it's a bond. You know what I mean? But in terms of these ideas of marriage and really putting pressure on women to have the marriage, this all out fucking example of massive amounts of money being spent to show off to who? I don't know. My dream wedding is. How about your dream fucking relationship? Fuck your dream wedding. Your dream relationship. What does that look like? How can you see yourself old with that man? Can you see one of you dying and holding each other's hands in that reunion? That's fuck the dress, and that's something that is toxic in women, in my opinion. What are your?
I just wanted to say, I mean, actually, something I would do for my wedding actually would be I've seen a lot of people actually do this. People can actually go on honeymoon trips. They either invite their families or they don't. But it's usually it could be like a small thing basically, and it's small. It's they get their marriage license, and then if they want to bring their family, like a very small, close, like knit family, basically, if they want to bring the people that are very involved with, their mother, their father, that's fine. That's okay. I've seen that where maybe they want to do it even more private. That's fine. But I've seen people literally do that, where the wedding is they just get their marriage license and then they go on, they already have their honeymoon.
Yeah.
They already have their honeymoon. And these people have been married for 20 something. I mean, this one person I was looking on YouTube, they've been married for 47 years.
That's awesome.
47 years. And that was all they did. They brought their mother, their fathers. That was it. Just very, very close knit people. That was it. Went on a great vacation for like 4 weeks within Seychelles. And
nice.
Basically, like I said, they've been together ever since.
Because
it not only just speeds everything up, but I feel like it offers that beautiful escapism, that beautiful getaway for a couple, basically. Whereas it just becomes even closer. I mean, it gives that vulnerability between the root chakras for both men and women to actually get each other.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for being here. You know what's amazing, Water Bear, is you've actually said that you're interested in doing this on a weekly level or weekly level. I mean, it's whatever your schedule allows. But I think these conversations are so important to bring the feminine and the masculine together.
Well, the message that we want to put out there is that we are looking to bring men who want to do healing and get into a group that allows them to feel safe. Now, the weekly discussions are going to be about attracting those people to these healing groups. Whether they want to do it individually or in a group is up to them. Right. But I think it's so absolutely important that we build a community, a group, a circle, if you like, for safe communication and healing. And I want to attract as much men as possible. Various ages are very important. And let's go through our experiences. Let's share our wisdom. Let's guide one another to the highest possible potential of masculinity that we can, for the safety of the feminine, for the best quality of relationships with the feminine that we can have. It's so possible if we do work together and we share our wisdom and we share our insights. I believe it, and I'm very grateful to be here. So thank you very much for inviting me.
I think thank you, Barron. Thank you.
There you go.
Water Bear Medicine. Again, you can check out Water Bear. Please follow him now if you haven't already followed him, and hit him up. We are trying to, no, we're not trying. We're working on brick by brick dismantling the toxic patriarchy and matriarchy and energetic frequency of rebuilding something that is of light, that is fluid, that is moving, that is filled with love, that is filled with forgiveness, that is filled with learning and teaching. That's what we're, so these brick, these hard ass bricks that have like been on our chest, on our heart chakra and root chakra for so